Dear God, Abba, Father, here I am in my imperfect perfection, your tool to help me be a truth sayer. Help me remember I was lost and unable to walk. Now I'm found, and I hope to speak of your glory. Let my words find the right ears. And I hope you don't mind people reading before they share. Is that all right, Debug?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, and this is a religious text, so I hope nobody minds if I read something from a religious text. This is from the Torah. This is from the Old Testament for some of you, but others call it the Torah. And this is Psalm 40. This is to the leader, David, and it's Psalm number 40. And as soon as I start reading it, it's a little bit old-fashioned the way that it's written, but as soon as I start reading it, I think you'll understand why it pertains to the second step and came to believe. Psalm 40. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the desolate pit, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. Happy are those who make the Lord their trust, who do not turn to the proud, to those who go astray after false gods, who have multiplied, O Lord my God, your wondrous deeds and your thoughts towards us. None can compare with you. Were I to proclaim and tell of them, they would be more than can be counted. Do not, O Lord, withhold your mercy from me. Let your steadfast love and your faithfulness keep me safe forever. For evils have encompassed me without number. May iniquities have overtaken me until I cannot see. They are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails me. Be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. Let all those be put to shame and confusion who seek to snatch away my life. Let those be turned back and brought to dishonor who desire to be hurt, who desire my hurt. Let those be appalled because of their shame who say to me, aha, aha. But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation say continually, great is the Lord. As for me, I am poor and needy. But the Lord takes thought for me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, oh my God. And I just saw that a guy that I sponsor is calling me, and I'm not going to answer his call, obviously, because I'm speaking here, but I just want to quickly send him. I already did, but I'm going to send this to him again just in case he sees it. And in case he wants to hear, maybe he'll be here in time for the third speaker, the guy from New York. Incidentally, I really liked the first share, and I got a lot out of it. I was walking and I was trying to find a quiet place to sit down. I'm right by the Autobahn here outside of Munich, and it was really, really loud. And I was holding the phone up to my ear so that I can't find my headphones. They're somewhere here. I have this pack. That's everything I brought with me on my trip. And I did not come to AA to quit drinking. I had no intention of quitting drinking. I thought AA was a sham. I thought it was a bunch of Jesus freaks. I thought the book was veiled Christianity, still do. And I thought that aside from the stories in the back of the book, that it was a lot of really manipulative fear. And here's the thing. I came to scoff. You know, I came to AA to prove it didn't work so I could go drinking again. I came to AA to prove that I wasn't really alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic and he drank like an alcoholic. I knew he was a drunk. And I had a lot of outside issues, a lot of drugs and sex, but I didn't drink like my dad. And he was my picture of manhood, my dad. He was a real man and he drank like a real man. And it, you know, we are very, very conflicted people when we show up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was both proud of my dad and I loved him and I hated him at the same time. And through the steps and working with my sponsor and helping other guys with this work, I made peace with my dad before he passed on to the next life in 2006 when I was 4 years sober. So about like Ian, a little bit less sober than time-wise than Ian. But my dad was a type 1 diabetic. And if you know about diabetes, you know, if you don't take care of your body, then you'll get type 2 diabetes. But if you have type 1, that means you had it as a child. And that's what my dad had. And he took insulin his whole life. He was never normal, except for when he went to diabetic camp, you know, where all the diabetic kids went. There he was normal. And after he died, I couldn't make it to the funeral because I had just been back there in Texas. But I went back at Christmas and the whole family went to his diabetic camp and we threw his ashes into the water at his camp. And part of why my dad drank was that he wanted to be normal. He wanted to be like the other guys. He didn't want to worry about his insulin. He didn't want to worry about he just wanted to be one of the guys. I mean, it's the same reason I drank. It's the same reason a lot of guys I sponsor drink. They just want to be one of the guys. So one day, I went to Alateen when I was little, and my mom was going to be out of town. And my mom said, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you drink, because she was a really good Al-Anon. She said, but I just want you to take Michael and Ken. Michael's my brother. I just want you to take Michael and Ken to their Alateen meeting. And he did. And he got there and he was sitting in the car outside the meeting, and there's Al-Anon and there's Alateen, and then of course next door there's the AA meeting. And he knew that if he drove home he was going to drink because he knew himself. And so he said, well, I don't want to sit in the car. It's hot in Texas. So we went inside and he went to his first AA meeting. And I wish I could say he never drank again, but he had a slip. But then after that slip, he never drank again. And my dad, not Bill W., Bill A. Bill A. died sober. And he took AA into the prisons in Huntsville, Texas. And he helped guys not only get sober, but he helped them retransition back into the real world. And every Thanksgiving and Christmas, we had a couple of drunks and a couple of singletons, you know, people who didn't have anywhere else to go, sitting at our dinner table. And when my dad died, there were 600 people in the church and another 600 people outside. My dad was a lot quieter than I am, a lot quieter than my mom. He rarely said anything. He was really good at listening to drunks because he didn't have much to say. But he knew when to ask the right question, which is something my sponsor does. My sponsor doesn't say much to me. He never gives advice. In 19 years, he's given me advice. I can count them on one hand, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe 5. But my sponsor's belief is that if you give advice, that then you're responsible somehow for if shit goes pear-shaped. So my sponsor just asks me questions, and a friend of mine and I were talking before the meeting, and she asked me, because we were talking about what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. And she asked me what my sponsor says to me today, because I was telling her about something my sponsor said when I quit drinking. And I said, he doesn't say very much. He's not a very talkative person, little bit like my dad. And I do believe that God gave me my sponsor. I believe it's not an accident that um, that Dermot is my sponsor. But she asked me what it is that he says to me when I talk to him. And I said, 95% of the time he says to me today, he says, Ken, you're doing great. You're doing really well. And that's not to say that if he hears me fucking up, that he won't say, hey, Ken, what are you doing? So here's somebody that I've walked the path with. I've walked the AA path. I've stayed sober and helped other alcoholics. There's a guy in the meeting called Dosh, and I'm not Dosh's sponsor, but I was for 17 years. And Dosh is from India. He's a Sikh from Delhi or Old Delhi or New Delhi. I don't remember. And when I look at Dosh, hey Dosh, when I look at Dosh, I don't see the man that I see before me. I imagine Dosh 80 or 90 years old, like Ben Kingsley in that movie Gandhi. And there's Dosh, and he finally put his turban on. He doesn't wear a turban. I think his dad did. I don't remember. But I see Dosh as an elder in AA who, every group has an old guy who says stuff that, says the same stuff over and over again. And that's how Dosh is. He's somebody who his message is don't take a drink. If you don't take a drink, you won't get drunk. And that's Dosh's message. And if you don't do this already when you share, it's really good to share the same thing every time, because somebody will hear it and then they'll see you in another meeting and they'll hear you say it again. And then the third time they might start thinking, that's a really interesting thing to say. So here's mine. I won't wait till the end. What I try to remember when I share and when I live my life and when I go through my day, whether it's 24 hours or, 16 hours that I'm awake or, I try to remember to trust God, to clean house, and to help others. And if I'm doing one of those three things all day, somehow, I'm a teacher and I really like to teach. And so while I'm teaching, I think, how can I practice those AA principles in all my affairs? Well, I try to teach my students. I try to treat them with the same respect and love and honor that I do my sponsees. And I try to treat the people that I teach with the same care that my teacher taught. So I told you already, I came to AA, I didn't want to quit drinking, and I certainly didn't want anything to do with God. And my first wife was 20 years older than I, and she was wealthier than I. She had a lot of money. And I told her before I quit drinking that I wanted to quit drinking. At Christmas time, I told her that I wanted to quit drinking, and a few days later, I opened my Christmas present, and there were a few other things, but it was mostly a really nice bottle of bourbon and a bottle of tequila. And that tells you how good my word was. I tell my wife, this was 2002, 19 years ago. I told my wife that I wanted to quit drinking, and she gave me a couple of bottles of alcohol because I'm sure she thought, let's see how long this lasts. And then, when he starts drinking it again, he'll enjoy the bourbon and the tequila, because those were my favorite drinks. So anyway, I go to the meetings and I hated most everybody in the meeting. Couldn't tolerate any of them. And, I like to say that 30 days sober, 90 days sober, I started to really like the people in my group. And if you don't have a home group, then try to get one, because it really makes a difference. Go there and try to help. In the old days, we would clean up ashtrays and chairs, move chairs, but today it's, Zoom tactics. So keeping Zoom bombers out and that kind of thing. So I was 30 days sober and I went to my group and I thought I was going to get a parade and, fireworks, but it was just a normal meeting. And, I got my chip at the beginning and they asked me how I did it. And I shared 5 or 6 or 10 minutes. I don't know. And then we celebrated afterwards at Salvatore's, the little Italian place in front of the Hochschule für Philosophie where the meetings are. Dosh can tell you how many ceiling tiles there are because he used to sit and count them every week. And then I went home 30 days sober. And my wife, while I had been gone, had packed all my things and said, I don't care if you drink or don't drink. I just want you to leave. And I've noticed that most people 30 days, 60 days, 90 days sober, they have real estate problems. They have to find somewhere else to live because where they were living was intolerable. So I sat down on the couch and I did the third step. For the first time in my life, I asked a power that I did not believe in if that I told God in that moment that I could not do it anymore, that I was a worm, that I was a miserable failure. And I said, God, I don't know how you're going to make me whole, but I can't do it. I'm failing. I had been homeless in Houston, Texas, and now I was homeless in Munich. And I wish I could say that I left, but instead I stayed for 3 more months and my wife and I fought every day. I later learned that it takes 2 people to fight. And if you're fighting with someone and you don't want to fight, then you can just stop. And I would come home from Friday night meetings and she would yell at me and tell me how selfish I was. And I would sit and listen to her and try to be like Seneca, try to be stoic. And I was. When I was homeless, I was able to go to the library and read and nobody bothered me. It's a little like right now I'm walking the Camino de Santiago. I'm walking from Munich down to the Lake Constance, and then I'm come back to Munich, and then I'll go and I'll walk, and eventually I'll walk across France, and then I'll walk across Spain, and then I'll go to Santiago, and then eventually I'll go to the end of the earth. And yesterday I was praying while I was walking. And my pack, I just started here in Munich where I live, and my pack is really heavy. And I started thinking about how my pack is like my character defects. And, I did an inventory recently, and my 4 most prominent character defects are pride and envy. Those go together. So pride and envy and self-pity. I still feel sorry for myself, especially when I'm not eating well or I haven't slept enough. I'm trying to remember my other defects. This is how good I am. I took notes. I've pride and envy. I have anger. I don't just have anger, I have rage. I have a 3-year-old daughter and I rage at her when she doesn't do what I want. And I haven't slept enough and I haven't eaten well. I yell at my wife in the street. Not today, but like right before my mom died last year. I had transferred all my anger towards my mom to my wife, and I was yelling at my wife full voice. Like Alex Ferguson in the old days. Red face, just screaming bloody murder at the ref. You remember? Not when he was at Aberdeen, when he was at Man U. And that's how I yell at my wife. I don't hold back. I give it all. Because she married me, right? She deserves it. But that's how it was before I did the steps on my relationship to women, before I recognized that my anger is a manifestation of my fear that I'll never be good enough for my wife, my fear that I'll never be good enough for God, my fear that you won't admire me, that you will think that I'm not trying hard enough. And the thing about character defects is I can't get rid of them on my own no matter how hard I try. I can't stop yelling at my wife unless I ask God for help and let God take care of me. This morning I had my pack. I went to a cafe. It was early in the morning. I had some coffee, smoked a cigarette. I'm trying to quit smoking, but it's harder than it looks. And I sat there for several hours and repacked my pack, and I got meat from the butcher for my dog, and I had spent quite a bit of money there, and the lady who was clearly the manager of this cafe came out and she said, "You can't be here." She looked at my pack. She assumed I was homeless. I used to be homeless. I understand. I know how we treat homeless people in our society, whether it's the US or Germany or India. And she told me I had to leave, that I wasn't welcome at her establishment because I looked like a homeless person. And a rage overcame me. And I wanted to yell at this woman and tell her that I was a pilgrim, and I was walking the Camino to Santiago, and that God was on my side, which meant that the devil was on hers. And instead I said to her, "I understand. I'll pack my things and I'll leave immediately, but first I'll pay." And I'm a really good card player. My dad taught me to play poker when I was a kid. And I would recommend you do not play poker with me unless you really want to give me some money. That woman has no idea how angry I was with her. Now, why can I treat that woman with respect? But the lady who sleeps next to me, I cannot treat her with honor. I cannot treat her with the same respect that I did a stranger working in a cafe outside of Munich, because I am broken today, just like I was when I got here. I am a broken man. And the only hope that I have is with God's help. The only hope that I have is if I trust that a power greater than me that helped me quit drinking will help me quit smoking, will help me stop yelling at my wife, will help me stop trying to prove to you that I'm good enough. Your opinion of me does not matter one bit. It doesn't matter. When this meeting ends, I'll say goodbye to Ian and the guy from New York. I'll say goodbye to all of you and I'll keep walking. And I'll get a call from one of the guys I'm sponsoring and I'll listen to him the best I can. And I won't say anything until I feel moved, until something in me says you have to say something now. And I'll try to say one thing. My friend Liz, who's here. Liz, are you there? Can you say hi?
I'm listening attentively, baby. I'm right here, honey.
I talked
Liz
to Liz.
Alcoholic.
Liz, I love you like a sister. You're amazing. Liz spoke last night and she broke my heart. Liz is an older woman, but she was beautiful in her day. Dark hair down her back, beautiful. She's only about 4'11" now. She used to be 5'2", but she's beautiful. If I had known you when you were drinking, we would have had a good time, Liz. So what am I doing today to stay sober today. Trust God, clean house, and help others. I'm asking you to ask yourself, have you made every amend? I've got 2 left. I have a warrant in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm going to end with a story about a car that I took. And I paid for it, but I didn't transfer the title. And it was a 1985 Mercedes Daimler Benz diesel. And I drove it until it wouldn't drive anymore. I drove it, the brakes went out, and I couldn't afford to get the brakes fixed, so I just used my emergency brake until the emergency brake went out. And I drove it into the front of a fucking cafe where 2 cops were, and I was smoking a lit joint, a marijuana cigarette, while I drove the car into the front of a cafe. And if it weren't for these massive potted plants that were sitting in front of the cafe, I would have killed those 2 cops and I'd still be in Huntsville prison in Huntsville, Texas. Because the police do not let you out of prison. And a few weeks later, I was at a bar drinking. I walk into the bar, I wanted to get a drink. And a man in the bar stood up and he said, pointing at me, I didn't know this guy. And he said, if that guy's allowed to drink in here, I'm leaving. I'm not drinking in any establishment where he's drinking. Who the fuck was this motherfucker? Turns out he was the best friend of the cafe owner. And he knew me. And I did not know him. I'm 19 years sober, but I've only got today. There's an old saying in AA, he's got a lot of years, but not enough days. If you've been a bunch of years sober and you think you have this thing sussed, read page 24 and get back to me, all right? If you think you're safe from alcohol, read the bedevilments and tell me if your life is worth living. Tell me if you're contributing more or if you're taking more. If you think that you're safe from alcohol, then I'm happy for you and I cannot wait to hear you share in the next meeting where we see each other. We will meet each other thanks to Zoom. Thanks to Zoom, we will meet each other and we will trudge the road to happy destiny. And I want to remind all of you people who are new, Ian has 4.5 years sober. You know how you do that? You don't drink for 4.5 years. I got 19.5 years sober into this month. Into March, if I'm lucky, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to have 20 years of continuous sobriety. God willing, inshallah. And I think the guy from New York has 36 years sobriety. 26, 30, 36, I think. I can't remember.
26.
26? Todd, I cannot wait to hear you share, man. I cannot wait to hear you share. And I would be wearing my tie, but you know, I'm walking. And I want to pass the baton off to Todd. I don't know Todd at all, but Todd's going to talk about the promises in each step. And I was talking to Liz before the meeting and we were talking about the 4th step promise. And I don't want to step on your share, Todd. You don't mind if I share this, do you? All right, so I got to find where Liz told me this. So Liz said, and I know I'm almost done. How much time do I have?
Almost 1 minute.
All right, that's enough time. So Liz said that the promise of step 4 is I begin to learn patience and goodwill toward all men, especially my enemy. Patience and goodwill towards all men. And she said, eliminate the word tolerance from your vocabulary. Because tolerance, if you think about it, it's a little like if you go to a meeting and the topic is humility and everybody sits there sharing about how fucking humble they are. They just go on and on and on about how humble they are. Well, the same with tolerance. So if you're tolerating me sharing, or if you're tolerating your sponsor or your sponsees, don't. Everybody in this room is one of us, and you are one of us too. You don't have to tolerate us anymore. You can love us. You can respect us. You can look us in the eye, not from above, not from below. You can look me in the eye. And if you're sober today, if you got up earlier than I did, which you didn't, then you're more sober than I am. I got up at about 3:45, 4 o'clock to start walking. Went to a meeting in Cincinnati. I love AA. I love this program. Todd, God bless you. God bless all of you. I hope that you can make it to the end of this day. Put your head on the pillow. If you can make it without drinking to tonight, you're a winner. You win today. And that's all I have. Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Thank you very much, Sanjeev, for inviting me to speak. This has been a wonderful experience. Thank you. God bless you all.